Zen Baby here, and today I'm going to tell you some tips that have worked for me and how Asher's going to be 6 months old and I have exclusively breastfed him the whole time. My milk supply has not gone down. There was even one point where I was overproducing and I had to make sure I fed him only the amount that he should be and not overfeeding him. And so I know there's some women out there that sometimes their milk dries up by like 3 months old. By the time their baby's 3 months old, some women sooner, some women around the 6 month mark, and I have not had an issue whatsoever. So I'm going to tell you a couple of really easy ways that you can make sure that you give your breasts and your milk the best possible chance to probably breastfeed for as long as you want to. My plan is to give Asher milk until he's 1.5, and of course he's going to be 6 months old, so only because of that reason am I considering starting to breast pump and give him bottle. But even then, I try to breastfeed as often as I can from the breast. And we'll talk a little bit more about why towards the end of the video. But the first tip that I have for you is drink water. Lately, I have realized whenever I drink water in the middle of the night, throughout my day, my milk supply in my breasts when I breastfeed is so much more. I've noticed there's been days that I choose because sometimes I just don't drink as much water some days as I do other days. And I noticed on the days where I don't drink as much water, my milk supply for him is definitely a lot less. So drink water, that's tip number one. Tip number two, something I always did with him because he's my first child, so I'm a new mom, it's my first time around, and I'm so grateful that it is because I've learned so much, hence why I'm making this video to teach other moms. But one of the things I made sure to do right out the gate was I always abided by the feeding schedules, meaning whatever the pediatrician or what I found and researched online, whatever they said was the amount of time that you should wait before feeds, how often you should feed them a day. I made sure to always do whatever the guidelines said. So if it said that at 1 month old, he's supposed to be breastfeeding 9 to 12 times a day, I would make sure that I always at least fed him 9 times. And I always would, it just depended on how much he was hungry. So definitely always abide by just how often you should feed them a day, and how spread apart. That's definitely something that will help your milk supply to increase, is just being consistent every single day. And that's another thing I want to say as well, as for him, I know some moms do feed on demand, and there have been studies that show that feed on demand is better for your baby. Maybe they have more mental stamina. But Asher here, he's 5 months old and he is incredibly smart, and I have decided since he was a baby, I was always on a feeding schedule for him, just to make sure that I was feeding him the exact amount of times that he wanted to per day. And the only reason why I did that is because there was times where I was like, okay, I'm only going to feed him on demand. And what would happen is he just, wouldn't feed as often. Maybe he would feed once and then he'd want to sleep for 5 hours and then feed again. It's okay, Bubba's. And then because of that, he just didn't eat as much throughout the day. So I was like, you know what? Let me put him on a feeding schedule. Hey, the Bubba. It's time for him to eat, so he's getting a little restless. But let me put him on a feeding schedule and to be consistent. So that's one of the things I did way early on, since he was like, say hi, Bubba's. Since he was like a month old, I always had him on a feeding schedule. Like right now, he's 5 months old, so his feeding schedule is, he eats every 2.5 to 3 hours. Actually, sometimes he eats every 4 hours. It just depends on, the schedule, the eating schedule that I want to have in place for him. So get on a schedule as well. Another tip is take your prenatal vitamins. That definitely helps. The more vitamins you take, the better. That way you have energy and you have vitamins going into baby, and your milk supply is a lot healthier because you're taking vitamins. Another a tip that I have is follow the baby's lead. So every time I breastfed Asher, I wouldn't stop. Well, when he was younger, I always timed it, when they're a newborn, a month old, 2 months old, So a newborn to 2 months old is when I made sure that he fed exactly when the pediatrician said how long. They usually say 15 minutes on each side, to make sure it's a 30-minute feed. So I made sure, even if he wasn't that hungry, I would just be there for him, waiting for him if he wanted to drink a little more. And I did the 15 minutes on each side. But by the time he was about 2 months old and on, that's when I followed his lead while breastfeeding. So I would just let him feed and feed and feed until, one of the things I noticed, when he's full, he'll do the whole and he'll like release the nipple and unlatch. And so when he does that, I stop feeding, or sometimes he'll just do that. But he'll still be hungry and he'll latch back on. So as you get to know your baby, you'll know when they're actually done with a breast. And so follow their lead. That's one of the reasons why my milk supply is still great. Hi, Bubba. Because I follow his lead. And so that's definitely a key. Say hello, hello, hello. Because you never want to overfeed them or underfeed them. And trust baby. Baby knows how much he's hungry. And as time goes on, you'll learn too when he's probably still hungry, but he's just either playing with the breast or he's just a little irritated. So don't worry, like trust your mother's instincts, but yeah, follow their lead when breastfeeding, never underfeed them. Another thing that I've done, like he's 5, he's gonna be 6 months old in a week and a half, and I think there was only a time frame of 1 week where I tried to do bottle feeding, and it was just too much. Like I work from home, and just breast pumping was too much for me. But thank God, because of that, I just decided, I'm just gonna just breastfeed him from the breast no matter what. And so I truly believe because of that, the milk supply has been a lot better, because pumping is very hard. You always have to clean the bottles, and it's just a whole extra job. But breastfeeding him made things a lot easier for me, where all I have to do, because he's on a feeding schedule, I just have to be like, okay, it's time to feed, and I just pop him on the breast. And so I think because my breasts always felt his natural latch as opposed to a breast pump, that also encouraged my breast to continue to produce. Because there's and I want to make another video about it, but there's so many amazing, beautiful chemical reactions, emotional reactions that take place when your baby is actually on your boob as opposed to a pump being on your boob. And that encourages them to keep going and to keep creating. And that's one of the things that I wanted to kind of go into, is let your baby do what it was made to do, and let you yourself do what you were made to do. Trust your body, trust your baby to just do. And you don't have to use a breast pump unless you have specific reasons why you need to use a breast pump, and everything like that. You don't need to do anything that's unnatural. Just trust your body. And that's one of the reasons why I think my milk supply is still banging, still going strong, is because I keep it natural. Like when Asher's ready to feed, we feed on the breast, and I make sure to drink water. I also have lactation tea that I sometimes take. Rarely though do I need it, but I have lactation teas. I have like a feeding schedule for him. I follow his lead. And so those are the tips that I have for you. So once again, drink lots of water. Maybe have a lactation tea, helpful tea that you can take. Abide by like a feeding schedule to make sure they're always eating what they should be eating based on their age. Take prenatal vitamins as much as you can. Let baby lead when feeding him, and try to do breast instead of bottle as long as you can. And just let you and your baby do what you guys are created to do. Just breastfeed. Keep it simple. There's a beauty about keeping it simple, other than having them on a feeding schedule. Just breastfeed. Hi, Bubba. Say hello. And then the major tip that I think helped a lot was when I was pregnant with him, I never had caffeine. Like I never drank a full cup of coffee. I think I had a couple sips once of caffeine, but I never had caffeine. And I realized some women that take caffeine while they're pregnant, it seems like they struggle a little more with their breast supply. So, but if you're already giving birth and you're not pregnant any longer, even while having him, I still rarely have caffeine, don't really drink like orange juice. So pretty much like all the foods and the drinks they say not to have while pregnant, I still abide by that. So I definitely think that that's played a role as well in making sure that my milk supply is healthy. But I gotta go breastfeed my baby. He's getting restless. But hopefully this video helped you. If it did, please comment below just your journey in breastfeeding. If you have any questions, I'd love to help you out. And we will see you later.